I wouldn't blame you if you forgot that throwing weapons exist in Fallout New Vegas. I mean, they're only ever really used by Legion and a small handful of other people in the game, so yeah. I often wonder to myself if they are useful or even practical in the game. Luckily, today I have tracked down one of my good old time friends, Big Boy Bert. He's back in the Mojave after a torturous campaign in Portland, Oregon. As our resident melee and unarmed expert, he will help us test the effectiveness of throwing weapons on our brand new friend, unnamed Chem Addict. We promised him 2 syringes of Med-X in return, so let's get started. Here are the stats of our Chem Addict friend who we will be testing our throwing weapons on. It should be stated that these weapons can be affected by certain perks that you can obtain or traits from the beginning of the game. Bert has all of them because he is simply just built different. First up is the throwing knife. It does 15 damage per attack, 24.6 with related perks, 48.2 DPS, 134.4 with related perks, 2 times crit chance multiplier, costs 20 AP in VATS. It has the effect of bonus critical damage and bonus critical chance. Its requirements are melee weapon skills of 0 and strength of 1, so you can be an amoeba and you can still use this weapon. Throwing spear. It does 50 damage, 69 with perks, nice, 30 DPS, 70.4 with perks, costs 24 AP. Its requirements are melee weapon skill of 25 and strength of 1. Throwing knife spear, very similar to the throwing spear. 42 damage, 58.4 with perks, 20.2 DPS, 47.6 with perks, costs 28 AP, has the effect of 2 times bonus limb damage, and requires 25 melee and strength of 1. Throwing hatchet. It does 20 damage, 32.8 with perks, 17.6 DPS, 49 with perks, costs 22 AP, has the effect of 1.5 times bonus limb damage, and has the requirements of 25 melee weapons and strength of 1. Tomahawk. It does 30 damage, 49.2 with perks, 19.8 DPS, 55.1 with perks, costs 23 AP. It has the effect of 1.5 times bonus limb damage and has the requirements of 50 in melee skill and strength of 3. Proton throwing axe. It does 40 damage, 55.6 with perks, 32.2 DPS, 76.1 with perks, costs 20 AP. It has the effect of plus 50 damage against robots outside of Big MT and plus 20 damage against Big MT robots and power armor. It also has 1.5 times bonus limb damage. The requirements are 25 in melee weapon skill and strength of 1. Protonic Inversal Throwing Axe. It does 60 damage, 83.4 with perks, 52.7 DPS, 124.5 with perks, costs 22 AP, has the same effect and requirements as Proton Throwing Axe. Judging by the stats, they're pretty good, right? Oh, yes and no. Yes, they do very high damage with one single projectile and can even cripple limbs or take down robots and power armor, but there are other downsides that are not seen on paper. Eagle-eyed viewers can see in the footage that I often miss a lot. I don't know exactly what is going on, but my guess is that the effect of weapon spread that is on guns is also on throwing weapons. This makes it feel inaccurate and needs a very precise aim. I see this as a downside as a lot of these weapons are rare and I often miss. The proton and protonic inversal axes are limited completely, so it would suck to lose a lot of your axes due to very poor aim. I don't think that they would make a good solo build, but I do feel that they would aid melee builds in some scenarios with ranged attacks, as these weapons have a pretty decent range, aside from throwing knives. So, what did we learn? We learned that throwing weapons could be good supplements to melee weapons. The throwing hatchet was the worst in my opinion, as it was very inaccurate and not really fun to use. The throwing knives were okay if used in stealthy situations. The big empty axes were pretty good all round, especially against robots. If I could choose two from the bunch, I would probably stick with the throwing spear and the tomahawk, as they do pretty good damage. The throwing knife spear, it was okay, but it was outshined by the regular spear. Oh, and our chaotic friend also learned something too. He learned to not trust strangers.